Birthdays can be tricky to navigate with autistic kiddos. From sensory overload to sudden changes in routine, these celebrations often result in meltdowns and overwhelm. Today, we'll chat about how we create an autism conscious birthday experience for our girls and share our tips on how to reduce the overwhelm and enhance the fun. But before we get started, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for reminders of upcoming streams. Let's get started. Hi, Embracers.
Hi.
You could say hi.
Well, I was gonna say hi, but I'm not like an embracer, so I was like, do I just sit quietly and just smile like a dummy?
So before we dive in, want to make sure that you guys check out our Wonderful Wagon fundraiser by visiting autismwish.org and clicking on the Wonderful Wagon fundraiser link. It will bring you to this page here if you're watching. If you're on audio only, you can check it out online. So far, we've raised $115, but we need your help to reach our goal of $2,000 raised, and that will help keep our gifting programs funded for the rest of the year for Autism Wish. So if you feel led to give, please visit our website, make a donation to our Give, Send, Go campaign today. And as a bonus to our U.S.-based listeners, for every $1 that you donate, you will be entered to win a green VW4 Wonderful Wagon. So that's the 4-seater. And it's the bougie VW Volkswagen-looking one that everyone loves, courtesy of DME provider Babies on Broadway. So just make sure to check that out. The winner will be drawn once we reach our fundraising goal. And that is your reminder of the day. We're going to keep it going until we hit that goal, and that's when we will announce the winner. So today we are going to be talking about birthdays because lucky us, our girls were all born within 1 to 2 weeks of each other. So we just had essentially an entire month of birthdays with back-to-back 3 in a row.
Got a lot of practice though, so there's that.
Yeah. So needless to say, this is fresh in our minds, and we thought it'd be a good topic because we've noticed some changes as they've gotten older in terms of how we celebrate their birthdays, what works for them, what doesn't work for them. And there's a couple of things that we wanted to share with you guys, and also we'd like to hear from you guys as well on what your experience has been. But one of the first things that we've noticed with our kids, even very young, is their sensitivity to just even singing the happy birthday song. That was something we picked up early on, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was a painful one too, because you start off the birthday and there's already tears and meltdown. And you're like, wow, that took a weird turn for the worst, almost immediately. So it took us a hot second to realize the happy birthday song, not a fan. So
yeah.
And I think honestly what it was is the volume at which people sing it with gusto and really belt it out. And I think that was the problem because everyone likes to I don't know, be loud when they sing the happy birthday song because you're I don't know, trying to embarrass I don't know, the kids or the person. So they really want to be loud. And that did not go over well because our girls with sensitive hearing did not like that. And it caught them off guard. And it was tears right from the start.
Yeah, definitely. So our kids, especially the oldest one, whenever we would start singing happy birthday, she would immediately, even as kind of baby toddler. So around 2, she would start trying to crawl out of our arms and start whining and crying and trying to get away. At that age, we didn't really know exactly what was wrong, but we could tell over time the pattern that every time we would sing that song, no matter whether it was her birthday or somebody else's birthday, she would basically have a meltdown and just not hold it together for that. So we realized quickly that the best accommodation for her has been to either not sing the song, or we would whisper it or sing it quietly or slowly. And now that she's gotten older and is verbal now and is able to express more how she's feeling with some probing, we're able to ask her basically what her preference is. Oh, do you want us to sing it? Do you want us to whisper it? This or that. And now she has more of autonomy on how that will happen, essentially.
Right. As soon as she's able to express to us and let us know, no, I don't want it to be sung. I think this year she was okay with it being sung quietly. We always we kind of just whisper sing, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
And she mentioned she wanted it quiet. And now everyone is so much on board with this, and we already know the routine. Even her younger sister is whispering, singing the happy birthday song because like she knows like, and even her sister didn't like the song being sung if I'm remembering correctly. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like a common thing in our family that we whisper sing happy birthday to whoever birthday it is. And now it's just kind of like a like tradition among our family. It was like a small little like change in birthday celebrations, but now it's like kind of like our thing. So I don't know, it's like our family thing now.
Yeah, the younger one isn't as expressive. She tends to be more mute when she's having issues. So with her, we noticed that she would just cover her ears and kind of like hide her head every time we would sing. So that to us was indicative enough to let us know that she also was not enjoying the happy birthday song. So we made the same accommodation for her. We also made accommodations on like the gift giving aspect because we learned through celebrating Christmases that they do not do well with like a huge barrage of gifts. It's just way too overwhelming. And I think the unwrapping and the tissue paper and all that makes a lot of noise. And so they get overwhelmed and overstimulated with that too. So this year we did like 5 presents for each kid, for example. And
Right.
we just kept it kind of minimal.
Yep, and we kind of kept them off to the side so it wasn't like a huge pile of like gifts or anything that like kind of like overwhelms them where they're like, oh my gosh, like all this. And then we would just hand them like one. I mean, I think most people kind of hand one at a time and run it instead of just like a free for all. But we kept it out of the way so they didn't see all the gifts at one time, and then we would just hand like one gift, and then they would open it, and then we would slowly go to the next one. So it wasn't anything too overwhelming. And honestly, the same thing with like. I think as far as decorations as well, we keep it very simplistic. We don't go over the top. We try and keep everything, I'd say, relatively like calm. Like, I mean, obviously we have like balloons and like streamers and like the whatever the theme is for like the birthday, but it's not like so much in your face that it's like overwhelming. It's very like, and it's only in one location. So like if they didn't want to be around like the decorations, they just like step like 5 feet to the side and then they're no longer with like the balloons or anything. And I feel like that has over the last few years definitely been, I mean, kind of smooth sailing because they are in control of when they are in a birthday location and when they're not. So I think so far, I think birthdays have been pretty smooth sailing for the most part with a few little tweaks in the system.
Should we talk about the balloons?
Which one?
So our oldest has like this very big balloon phobia. I think it stems from the sound that balloons make when they pop. So she is scared of balloons popping. She's scared of like even when you like squeeze the air through the balloon, when you kind of like pinch the end of it. She's scared of like when people accidentally or intentionally let balloons loose and they like fly around. So she doesn't like any of that. And of course, birthday parties always have balloons, and our other kid loves balloons, so we can't deprive her of balloons. So we've learned basically with the balloons that if we blow them up without her around, so she's not part of that process, then she's more okay with it as long as we kind of like hang them up and like leave them alone. We've also noticed that it depends on like whether they're quote unquote fresh balloons or older balloons, because older balloons are more prone to popping than like a freshly blown balloon. And we also make sure that we don't like overblow them so that there is low popping risk. And then she tends to be okay with that because she'll like trust it after a while and be like, okay, nothing is popped, I'm okay. But if you like, God forbid, have one accidentally pop during any of that process, she's probably going to have a meltdown and not trust any of the other balloons. So we're very like cautious of how we do the whole balloon situation.
Have you also noticed if there is something on the balloon, she is more accepting of it than if it's just
Yeah.
like a standard like color balloon? So like
Yeah.
this year, we did like a themed birthday party of like Mario,
Mario.
Princess Peach. So like we put like little pictures of Peach and like some of the characters on balloons, and she was like totally into it. And she actually asked if she could have like a Daisy balloon because there's like a picture of Daisy on one of the balloons, and she was comfortable with it. But in the past, like if we just have like a standard balloon by itself, she's less likely to want it in her presence. So not sure if that is something we should keep looking into that one.
It's like a trust thing. It's like she doesn't trust it, but oh, Daisy's on it, so it must be a
Right,
trustworthy
it's
balloon.
okay. So I mean,
Daisy wouldn't hurt me.
that's that's true. So that was another plus. And then as far as like for like candles, we that's kind of been so a little bit, like as far as like but I feel like with
Yeah.
most kids, that's probably like a fear thing with fire in general, though, right?
Well, I think with them, they actually had more of a fear with the candles that move and make noise. So we learned
Mm.
that early on. Like we initially tried to get like those cool candles that like make noise or like they open up like the flower petals because like our kids were really into flowers, and those definitely were a no go. Like they were terrified of those flowers. They were terrified of candles that moved, candles that made noise. So we learned our lesson and we stick to like regular candles now.
Can we add a disclaimer for the awesome ones that like they turn and they open up into like multiple candles, like the disclaimer there?
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, go ahead.
so I think it's made in like China or something, and they're super cool, not gonna lie, for that 30 seconds that you want them to twist with the fire. Fun fact, there is no off switch. Fun fact, there is no accessible battery. So you either have to like break the thing to get it to stop doing the tune, or just wait however long it has in its like
It will
system.
be days too, because
No,
we
it's
had one
days.
going.
We
Yeah.
it was like 3 days. We put it outside. It kept going, and then we like put it like in a dumpster at like Walmart or something because it just kept going and going, and like you could not turn the thing off. So like,
We like trolled Walmart and threw it in
oh
their
my,
trash. So like it was going off at Walmart forever and people couldn't figure out where it was coming
oh
from.
my god. I mean, awesome for that like 5 minutes, like cool thing, and like, but then you start to realize like, what is this thing? How do you turn this off? And then it becomes more of like a horror movie with this little candle thing. So for what it's worth, that's our experience with
Yeah,
that.
so don't use those. We will never use those again.
Oh my gosh, it's funny though.
Yeah. The other thing that we learned was that if you basically embrace their special interests, that is also something that's worked really well for us. So we try to get them really engaged and really interested in their birthday by trying to pick whatever their special interest at the time was. So like right now, they're super into Mario, and so we decided to do like a Princess Peach and Princess Daisy theme. And at first we were worried that they would not be cool with like a joint birthday. One of the concerns is that like our oldest one is extremely rigid, and she was not happy in the past with us celebrating birthdays on a day other than their actual birth date. And so we were worried that if we did a joint birthday that she would be really upset and kind of like OCDing about the fact that it wasn't the correct date because that's what she's done in the past. But because we picked this theme that they're super obsessed with Mario and the princesses, I feel like she didn't even notice. Like she was so into it that she actually didn't bring that up at all this time.
Well, in a weird way, we kind of celebrated like 3 birthdays for the 2 kids, if you think about it.
Yeah, we did. It
So
was
like,
3 birthdays in a row.
well, just thinking because like we had like a very like small, because we were sharing the theme for both of them, so we wanted both of them to experience the theme but not have to do it like one then the other one, because we figured that that would be hard for both kids to realize that it's your sister's birthday even though it's the same theme as your party. So we had like a small like birthday celebration with like cupcakes, and then together we had like the collective one with a shared theme, and then the other small birthday thing, if that makes sense. But I think that worked out well though.
Yeah, so basically what we did is because of their rigidity, like there's no way we could get away with not celebrating their birthday on the day of their birthday. So
Right.
we basically just got like a small cupcake for their birthday and one gift. They could open one gift. We gave them one like happy birthday balloon, and then they had like a cupcake for that day. So they could still celebrate their birthday. They still knew that, oh, I'm special on this day, it's my birthday, whatever. And then we had the joint birthday that was together in between, and then we had the one birthday again for the other kid with again one gift, one cupcake, one balloon. And that helped kind of smooth things over because I feel like it scratched that OCD itch that they have where it has to be on that day, because they still got something for their birthdays, but it allowed us to not like overspread ourselves so that we didn't end up doing like 3 elaborate lavish birthdays. We basically just did like really small thing on their actual birthday, and then we focused the main birthday event for that joint party that we did.
And I think it worked out well overall, because I think like usually like the kid or like our kids, like after like their birthday, they kind of get sad like a little bit because like, oh, like my birthday's over. But this like kind of allowed them to have like a like warm up and like cool down to like birthday mode. So it was like our youngest had like her small little like birthday on her birthday, and then the larger one. So it's kind of like it's not over. So it's kind of like when people they like do like the, oh, I'm celebrating this whole week as like my birthday. It was kind of like that mindset with the kids. So they felt like their birthday actually lasted longer than just like the single day. So I don't know. For what it's worth, it might be something to look into for the future. Maybe.
Yeah. And the other thing we should probably mention is that, yeah, we did do like a birthday party, but we didn't actually do like inviting people into the house or friends or things like that. It was like just small with our family. So that's like another thing that we've had to do is just keep things small and intimate with just like our immediate family members, maybe some close relatives that are nearby or local, and not really do like the big overwhelming party where you send out invitations and all that stuff. We're thinking in the future we will build up to that and maybe start off with joint party or something small where we just invite like a handful of close friends, like 2 or 3 for each of them, something like that, and just gradually get them to the point where we can have more and more friends in. But I think initially that would probably overstimulate them because they get really excited like easily when there's friends around, and they get kind of crazy.
Well, I mean, even if you think about it, that's when we had extended family and like cousins for some of their younger birthdays, and that's kind of when some of the meltdowns happened with like the happy birthday song and all that. So we have previously done a larger like get together with like family. Over the last like 2 years, we've kind of like dialed it down a little bit where it's much more intimate with just like our family. But I definitely think like we can take the necessary steps to start like getting a larger group together for their birthdays. Might have to throw a social story in there a little bit about like what to expect, so they're kind of a little bit more comfortable with it. But I think moving forward, I think we could definitely try and move to a like larger setting, because the last couple of years have been, I'd say, pretty successful overall.
Yeah, I think with them, they just kind of get sensory overwhelm for the most part. Like, I think it's not so much not knowing what to expect, which is more what they struggled with when they were younger. I think now it's just being able to handle even if they expect the thing. So, like, if they're expecting there to be noise, if they're expecting there to be crowds, if they're expecting a happy birthday song, they still don't necessarily react to it better. So it's more like us having to find ways to help them adapt to that better. And I think that her different therapies are really helping with us getting new tools on how to work with these situations. So I think that in the future, we're going to have an easier time handling this. But right now, I think that the smaller, more intimate setting seems to be working best for them at the moment.
And next year we can see if Chuck E. Cheese is on the radar.
List. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I am thinking about potentially doing something like a Chuck E. Cheese event in the future because they now have those like sensory days. So, for those of you listening, if you're not aware, if you are US based, Chuck E. Cheese does have like sensory, I don't know if it's like one day a month, I think that they do it.
Hmm.
But they have like a sensory hour in some locations. And for that time, they like reduce the lights and reduce the sounds, which I think could be really helpful. So we are considering maybe doing something like that in the future. But we recently brought them for their cousin's birthday to something that was similar to like Dave and Buster's or like a grown up Chuck E. Cheese. And oh my gosh, was that super sensory overload? Like I couldn't even handle it.
Yeah, that was a bit much, but I mean, it kind of is similar. Like you have like lots of like arcade games and lots of lights, noise, but then it also like doubled as like a like sports bar. So there was like TVs with like sports events going on. So it was
Drunk
like,
people.
well, sure, but that's at every birthday party, right?
I know
So
the drunk uncle.
right, but it was just a lot of noise, lights kind of shining, and then just yeah, just kind of a lot. So overall, I mean, they managed it better than I thought they would, but you could tell like they were still like largely uncomfortable. And I mean, they had their earmuffs on. I think the
the whole
whole
time pretty
time
much.
we were there. Yeah.
The
Um,
saving grace there was the vending machine with the free rubber ducks. That
oh
was
yeah, yeah.
that was the saving grace. So maybe what we should do in a future birthday party is just get a rubber duck vending machine, and maybe that will just like solve everything. Anytime they get overwhelmed, oh look what we have here, rubber ducks.
Just keep it in like the back of the car and just like just pull it out every time we need it.
Yeah, just have it
Uh,
in like a little sensory corner. Oh look, it's rubber duck time.
right, but that also brings out like a good point for like birthday parties. Like if you are going to a location, like always make sure you have like your like go bag, like with like headphones and like sensory items and like anything you might need, because you never know when you're going to be in a situation. In this case, their cousin's birthday, where we needed both headsets the entire time we were there, and if we didn't have them, I can only imagine us having to leave early because we just couldn't be able to have them there. They wouldn't be able to function very well with all the stimulation, with the lights and noise and everything.
Yeah, that's the other thing is like how they react to birthdays also depends on whether it's their birthday or somebody else's birthday. So if it's their own birthday, then it's a lot easier for us to navigate because we have control over how it's set up, what the schedule is, when things happen, what things look like, all of that. And so hosting birthday parties, in my experience, has been a much easier experience for our girls than us being invited to birthday parties. And that's kind of like a double edged sword because one of the issues is that because our kids are autistic, they don't tend to get invited to birthday parties because people tend to not really want to invite the autistic kid. But on top of that, if they do get invited, then there's the whole issue of like, okay, how do we navigate this? Because it's new, it's going to be loud, there's going to be things we can't control. We cannot tell them not to sing happy birthday at somebody else's birthday party. So we have had
And
to
they've
make
tried.
I
They've
know they
tried.
have. They have certainly told people not to. So,
Uh,
and that's another thing we have to navigate. It's like, how do you explain to people, like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, she's not trying to be rude. She has issues with the song. Like it comes off as rude. And so, if that person doesn't understand already that your child is autistic and has these rigidities at birthday parties, it can lead to a host of other issues. So, that's something that we have not had to navigate too much of because, like I mentioned, our kids don't really get invited to birthday parties, unfortunately. But in the case that they do, that is something that is on our radar that we will definitely have to speak to those parents in advance and just let them know about, like, she could potentially do ABC. It doesn't mean that she's being rude, and just kind of explain all that stuff. And then also make sure that she has like her bug out bag equivalent. So like we have her sensory stuff if she needs it. If she needs to get out, we have like quiet space and things like that just to make it doable for her.
yeah, I mean, honestly, I think just being prepared and like, what is it? Expecting the unexpected. Is that
Yeah.
appropriate for this situation? And just having like a game plan beforehand, I feel like that makes a difference in the world, because like, yeah, it's hard to kind of think quick on your feet, like if you're not prepared of like, oh, what can possibly happen. But then if you've already kind of thought through a handful of scenarios and you're kind of like, okay, when this happens, this is what we can do to try and help out in the situation. I feel like that definitely helps in the long run, because you already have kind of rehearsed it a little bit in your mind, so you know kind of how things will go or what to expect. And I mean that's come in handy a few times just at various events, not necessarily birthday parties alone, but just life. I mean, just being prepared for what sensory overload they might encounter.
Yeah, so the things that I've learned and my biggest takeaways have been preparing for potential triggers. So knowing in advance what those triggers are, like the balloons popping, for example, and preparing our kids for those as best as possible. And then also learning to continue to be okay with exposing our children to uncomfortable situations. I know like there's kind of like mixed reception to that. Like some people are like, oh, you shouldn't do that. But honestly, I think that the best thing we can do is continue to put our kids in situations that we feel like they could potentially fail at, because half the time they surprise us and they actually succeed. So, like, had we stopped trying to celebrate our kids' birthdays like 2 years ago when they were experiencing all this like hypersensitivity, we wouldn't be where we're at now, where we can sing happy birthday. We've just adjusted and accommodated how we do it in order to be able to continue to celebrate. So that's why I'm a huge fan fan of like just keep trying and then fine tune and tweak until you find that like winning formula rather than like scrapping it all together. And the same goes for going to other people's birthday parties. It's just keep trying, adjust accordingly, and then at some point you'll find that magic formula that ends up working.
And honestly, I mean, you raise a good point as far as like the allowing them opportunity to fail. What better place to learn how to deal with like failure in like a safe environment where your parents are prepared for the situation? So like if a meltdown happens and mom and dad are there to help and assist with the meltdown versus never putting them in that situation to begin with, or they get invited to a birthday party down the road and they haven't had all these like trial by fire with birthday parties, and suddenly that's when they start having sensory overload and they don't know how to react to it because they haven't had all those trial runs. So I mean, I think that's a absolutely wonderful way of expressing it, that you are testing the waters to see if they fail when the stakes are low, and then you kind of build off of that, because then once you get that first stepping stone, then you kind of just keep going from there rather than never attempting it altogether. So I think that's, I mean, honestly, I would say that's probably the most important thing that we've encountered, kind of, I mean, not just with birthdays, but kind of all around with introducing them to new things in life in general.
Yeah, we're big advocates of just wanting to slowly introduce our kids to things that would be enjoyed and done by neurotypical kids. And then just kind of like the training wheel model where you start them off on the training wheels and hope that eventually they can ride the bicycle. So like that's our goal. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But that doesn't mean that we don't want to at least try with the training wheels and try to get there. So that's kind of like in a nutshell what we've learned throughout the years with celebrating the birthdays. It's something that we continue to adjust over time, and it's something that will more than likely continue to change as they grow and like their triggers change and their social circles change. So it's something we'll have to continue to learn to be flexible with and adapt.
Yep. And happy birthday to you out there. Every day's a birthday for someone. Think about that.
So, how about your family? Are birthday celebrations a struggle for you guys? Do you guys still celebrate them, or do you just forego it because it's too much of a challenge? And if you do celebrate, what are some accommodations that you have found have helped your child? Let us know by sharing your thoughts in the comments on our YouTube or Facebook at Autism Wish, or continuing the conversation with us on our private Embracing Autism community. Before we go, don't forget to become a member today at autismwish.org for exclusive access to the Embracing Autism community, and you'll also have access to Matt and I. We're there all the time chatting, answering questions. And again, quick reminder about the Wonderful Wagon fundraiser. You will get an entry for every dollar donated. Help us get to our $2,000 goal so that we can continue to fund our programs at Autism Wish. Thanks so much for tuning in, you guys, and we will see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.